So the other day I was asked to go to lunch with someone who was friend of a friend because they had some projects they were working on and they wanted some advice. And when we were having this conversation over lunch, I realized that there was some really interesting subjects that were kind of common with a lot of people who are writing stories. And I kind of tried to boil it down to a little bullet point list of the best writing advice that's not technical. It's not like grammar or anything, but it's just trying to get into the right headspace so that you can actually write. And over my career, I've gotten a lot of advice on this subject. And these are kind of the main things that I suggested to this person. And so let's just start off. So this is the best writing advice I could give you as a new writer or maybe intermediate writer. The first advice I got a long time ago was don't apologize. And I think this is one of the things that really changed my writing and really gave me the confidence to just start putting stuff out there. If you have, a moral or a purpose in your writing or a message, or you're doing it for a reason to, don't apologize. If you have a certain faith and you want to express that in your comics or your writing, don't apologize. Don't sit here and walk around on eggshells and be all concerned that people will figure out what you're like when you're not a writer. I think you should just jump in there, be yourself. Don't apologize for what you're writing, and be true to yourself and what you believe. If you believe something, write about it. If you can't write about something you believe in, if you're not able to actually write about something that you believe in and you never tell anybody about it, then I really question if you actually believe it. You know what I'm saying? If you really believed what you believed and you really thought it was the truth, then don't apologize for it. Say what you believe, right? There's always going to be people that believe the opposite of you or something different or slightly like you. The point is that we communicate. We communicate our ideas. That's what writing and that's what story is about, is communicating ideas. I absolutely hate it when people are like, no, you can't write about certain subjects because it needs to only be entertainment. Well, you know what? No, I don't agree with that at all, because I think storytelling came about because it was trying to convey messages and capture history or explain morals to kids or whatever it is. So anyway, don't apologize for what you're trying to say. Say it, be bold about it, say it, period. Don't apologize, okay? That was one of the best bits of advice I heard. The second one is kind of morbid sounding, and it goes like this. Write as if your parents were dead, okay? Now, I know that sounds morbid, but what it means is don't worry, if you're constantly worrying about what your parents are going to think about your stories, because we're all kind of in this situation where, as we grow up, we're trying to please our parents and we don't do things that because of an idea that we think the parents will or won't like. But as soon as you can kind of like start making stuff without worrying about that parental factor, I think you'll actually make more stuff that your parents will actually like, So that's a good frame of mind to try to be in. And if you find yourself getting locked up because you're like, I don't know if my mom would approve of this. Well, your mom's not writing this story, so just don't let that hold you back from writing what you want to write, right? Right. Okay. The next piece of advice is if your writing is dependent on someone else, like an artist to do concept designs or whatever, then you're going about it wrong. If you want to be a writer, write. Don't let any artist or any other partner hold you up from writing, because if you really want to be a writer, it shouldn't be based on having an artist that's going to sell your book for you, right? You're a writer. You're writing a story, especially for people who are children's book writers who need to find an artist, or comic book writers who need to find an artist. Just write stories. Don't worry about the artist. Write and keep finishing stories. Make yourself a huge library. Get that experience of writing. Don't always blame it on someone else who you don't have any control over. Start writing. The next bit of advice is focus on your primary content. In other words, I've heard it said this way, pull the weeds. Meaning, if you have all these secondary things like, oh, I need to make a website that introduces these characters, and we need to focus on social media, and we need to make some plushies or whatever it is, those are all going to be weeds. They're all going to get in the way of your primary product, which is writing your story. If you want to write a story. If you want to be a writer, that's your primary product. Write the story. Don't worry about the website. Don't worry about the social media. Those are all weeds that are going to continue to grow up. They're always going to take over, and they're going to get in your way. You're always going to be having to deal with these weeds. So focus on 1, 2, or 3 things only, and pull all the weeds. Get rid of all the other garbage that's just going to waste your time, fracture your time, and make it to where you never get your primary product done. Okay? Pull the weeds, focus on your primary content. And then the next bit of advice that I always tell people when they ask me for career advice is this simple little strategy that I've used in my life. And it is find out what you love to do so that you can put in the time to master the skill, so that you can actually finish something. Because only when you have mastered the skill and finished something through the love of doing it will you actually finish it, and doors will start opening for you. If you don't really love something, you're not going to put in the time to master it, and you're not going to ever finish something that's any good. So you got to love it first so that you actually put in that time. That seems like a long time to other people, but since you love it, it's not going to seem like that much of time to you because you love doing it, right? You know, a snowboarder never complains because they're snowboarding too much. Oh, I got to snowboard some more. No, they love it. They go out there and they do it all day long because they love it. You know what I'm saying? So find the thing that you love to do so that you can put in the time so that you can finish something and doors will open. The thing is, you never know what doors will open up, but doors do open up when you finish things. Okay? And then finally, the last bit of advice that I gave is that it's a numbers game. I've been told this before in different fields of art, and it's always a numbers game. You have to just set yourself up so that you can keep finishing projects, keep finishing stories, keep writing stories, because it's a numbers game. Not your first story is not going to be the one that goes out there. Your first story isn't going to be the one that sells 1 million copies and suddenly you're famous if you've never written a story before. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm sorry, it just doesn't happen. Even the people who their first novel appears to be the best-selling one, they've written a lot of stories before to get to that point. You don't just sit down and start writing and you're brilliant. You have to write a bunch and you start learning, and it's a numbers game, right? When you're pitching properties to networks and studios, it's a numbers game. You have to just keep pitching ideas and eventually one will sell. If you're making comic books, you have to just keep making them. Eventually one might be the one that sells a whole bunch of copies. If you're writing children's books and making children's books, you have to just keep making them. Eventually one will be the one that blows up, but you can never guarantee it. But it's not going to happen by you just doing one perfect one. You have to look at this as a long game, okay? So keep writing, keep making content. Set it up so that you don't get burnt out after that first one. If you put all your eggs in one basket and get burnt out and quit, then you've failed, right? So make sure you can keep writing and keep telling stories and keep doing this because it is a numbers game. All right? So anyway, that was the advice. Those were the core elements of the advice that I gave my friend at lunch the other day. And I just figured, hey, this might be a good thing that other people want to hear. So with all that said, thanks for listening. And by the way, I'm having a big sale this November for all my comics. I'm having some big discounts. So head on over to ctc.storeenvy, or the links will be below. And make sure to grab some books from me while you can at a discount. All right, guys. I'm Jason Brubaker. I have worked for 20 years professionally in Hollywood in storyboards, film, animation, and now I do graphic novels for a living. I'm a completely self-taught artist, and I want to show you a technique that I created to teach myself how to draw. I've developed this book called Cognitive Drawing, daily worksheets that you can use, and once you learn this method, you can imitate any style you want, with or without my workbook. Check out Cognitive Drawing. I'll have it in the links below.